Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the weekend and the next 7 days ahead. Let's get into it. We've got a few thunderstorms around New South Wales. Most of it is off to sea, but around Lord Howe Island and south of Norfolk Island. Probably going to stay just south of Norfolk, but you can see these ones sort of bubbling up. Keep an eye on the radar. We've got mostly dry weather for the rest of the southeast. That is due to high pressure that is currently moving through there. Similar story for South Australia for now. Plenty of cloud and high cloud moving around Western Australia in the southern half. Sorry viewers in the northern half, not very much to talk about this week. Same story for the Northern Territory and around central parts of Australia. But this cold front coming through, sparking plenty of thunderstorms south of you, may also spark a few heavy downpours or showers and maybe some thunderstorms as it moves across from the western side to the eastern side. You can see one or two thunderstorms that sort of bubble up here and there. So here is the situation as we go in towards this evening. This is the misery index. So it shows three things. Red is 30 degrees and above, blue, 0 and below, and sort of the black grey area that you see for the majority is the temperate weather that we're used to. It's not usually uncomfortable. Now, obviously, it's a little hard to see, but there's a blue kind of smudge here going right up into Queensland. So higher elevation areas still getting down below zero tonight, and obviously down around the mountains and the ACT under high pressure, and of course the southerly change that was preceding it. Now behind it, the warm nor'westers are coming through. That is the next cold front. You can see the southwest change in the southwest of Western Australia, and those northwest winds are going to be moving along the coastline over the days ahead. So let me make sense of that for you. Here we are on Saturday, that cold front moving into South Australia. The blue line that comes up here, it's a little thin, but this blue line shows the polar vortex, the cold air that's usually down to the south of us, and that sort of balloons up for a time. So Adelaide, Kangaroo Island, those areas, Port Lincoln, all going to feel the temperature down, but further northwards, maybe not quite so much. It doesn't really come inland that much. Now, oddly, I don't know why, but right on the border, it just sort of stops. That's just the luck of the timing of the map that I showed you here. Kind of strange how it's almost a straight line. But northwesterly winds blowing through there, so dry for Victoria. But then later into Saturday, some of those showers will start to spill over. A few showers in the northern and western sides of Tasmania, not much for you. And on the eastern side, we've got a few showers, still leftovers of that south to southeasterly change that you've had in previous days. Further up into Queensland though, and the Northern Territory, the Kimberley, the Pilbara, dry for the most part. There might be a light coastal shower in the far north, but otherwise it is dry with an easterly flow. So by Sunday, timestamp over here, we've got showers here ballooning out here and there. So you might get a downpour. There might be an isolated thunderstorm or two. Sometimes when you see these big sort of areas of pale blue, which is the bottom of the scale here on the key, 1 to 5 millimeters, you might just think that's not going to do much, but you never know. With a cold front moving through further to the south, another one here coming in with northwesterly winds, there is the chance that you might get a heavier fall in there, but otherwise rainfall is low expected, and coastal cloud hanging around. Doesn't take much to go inland and it's completely dry. So it looks blue, but most of that is out at sea. So let's go into next week. Here is the next cold change coming in to the southeast of South Australia, so in parts of Victoria. So places like Mount Gambier feeling that cold change as it sort of moves from South Australia into Victoria, and around Bass Strait getting that windy weather, low pressure storm here south of Tasmania. Windy nor'westers for Tassie. You've got some heavier downpours from the northwest all the way over to about Lonnie. You'll be getting some of that heavier rain or showers coming through the day, and windier westerlies coming through the southeast around Canberra and Sydney, getting a west to northwest wind blowing through. Further northwards into Queensland, once you're north of the southeast, you've got an easterly flow from coast to coast, from the Coral Sea to the Indian Ocean. That's why we're not talking a lot about many of these places, because there's not much really going on. But we do see a bit of a change on Tuesday. Two different opposite ends of the country, over here in the northeast and down here in the southwest. So in the southwest, there is the next cold front coming through. Most of it is south of Perth, places like Bunbury down to Albany. You got some heavier falls, maybe some thunderstorms as that moves on through. Ahead of it, you've got the windier, warmer nor'westers. They're usually pretty dry. High pressure smack bang over South Australia and New South Wales, keeping conditions very dry for most places. Coastal areas though, do have the chance of a shower. It's not very much. probably less than 1 millimetre for most of you. Victoria's still seeing a few showers in there as well. Again, most of it is very coastal. Melbourne may even be too far north for it. I know Melbourne's coastal, but it's got a big harbour first before you get out to Bass Strait. So Bass Strait's where you start to get the proper rain, and then once you get into Tasmania, you're into that polar vortex. So temperatures are down. It's wintry day for those of you, especially on the west coast where it's coming straight off the ocean. Hobart, you got the hills and ranges to sort of go through before it gets to you. So you may notice a degree or two lifted up because of that. But there is some decent rain coming through for those areas. But the main other feature is this new system forming around the Coral Sea. So thunderstorms, heavy, more tropical-like rain starting to return. And we see those showers tapering off as you come back down to the southeast of Queensland. By Wednesday, those showers reach the southeast, at least based on this modelling. We are going quite a way out now, but here is the low spinning. If this was summertime, we'd be wondering if that's going to form into a tropical cyclone. Doesn't look as though it's going to turn into anything too nasty, but you never know. Keep an eye on it. Sea temperatures are above average at the moment, so that can help spark these lows a little more. But what's different to the cyclone season is high pressure belts are close by. Usually in summer, they're further to the south, but now they're up around New South Wales, central parts of Australia. So that kind of limits the life of that low pressure zone. But you do see all along the eastern side and northern parts of Queensland that chance of showers or thunderstorms or coastal rain that could be around. So quite a different easterly setup for Queensland and the westerly setup over there for the southern parts of Western Australia. As we go through to Thursday, that low gets larger, but it is running into high pressure. So again, unfavourable conditions, but worth monitoring where we go with that low. If it deepens a little more or moves a little closer to the west, or drifts westwards, I should say, that could drive in some heavier falls here to the east. So keep an eye on that. It might weaken and stay out at sea and not really cause any issues. But as that low deepens and it runs into high pressure, creates the squash zone. That's the windy easterly in between here. So that's where you might start to see some marine gales that pop up. But like I say, this is basically a week away, this map. Things can still change. The map here for Friday certainly shows it's sort of falling apart and not really affecting Australia in a big way. Southeasterly winds sort of from Newcastle or Port Macquarie northwards, and then that kind of fades out as you go into Queensland with showers also tapering off the further north you go. Northwesterly winds, that's the other feature on the map here, mostly from about Adelaide to Hobart, getting those northwest winds blowing through. Again, marine gales are possible. We may even see severe gales around parts of Tasmania and the coastal south. Just have to wait and see. There's a lot of low pressure south of you, a lot of high pressure here over New South Wales and the central parts of Australia. That puts a lid on how far the lows can come up. And that lid creates the windy weather. So you see those northwesterly winds blowing through there. So there are quite a few moving parts, but in saying that, there's also a lot of nothing going on. So I've got two rainfall maps for you because there's a little bit of uncertainty with the Coral Sea system. This is the one from America, the GFS map. Shows you some areas here with 100 millimetres brushing coastal areas. But for the most part, the rainfall in Queensland is anywhere between just a couple of millimetres and 20 or 30 millimetres. So it won't be for everybody where you see these higher totals. Southwest Australia seeing some good showers and some good wet weather coming through for those that need it. And South Australia looks like the best candidate for getting some follow-up rain. I still find that quite funny how it stops on the border there. Tasmania has also got some decent rain on the west coast. Not huge totals, but 60, 70 millimetres are possible over the coming week. Now let's compare that map with the European one. Not a huge amount of difference for many of these southern areas. Perhaps a few more downpours though coming through Victoria. I'm sure some of you might like that. And you can see here quite clearly most of the wet weather in Tassie, northern and western facing areas. The rainfall though in Queensland changes on this map from the previous one. It's not quite as intense further down in the southeast. So that's why I wanted to show it to you. This shows more wet weather around the far north, whereas the American one shows a bit more of that coming down the coastal side. So I'm showing you those two different maps to let you understand there's a bit of uncertainty there. It's not locked in. Before I go, the place of the day, Gordon River Dam in Tasmania. I know that I'm from New Zealand, which is, Lord of the Rings, but this to me looks like Lord of the Rings. It is what a crazy part of the world. So temperature-wise, 9 to 13, cold weather on the way, overnight lows 3 to 10. It's not too bad. Interesting fact, the crest of the dam, 310 metres above sea level, right here. So there we go. That is a different one for you today. Tasmania, lots of wintry weather on the way, but it's going to be windy and mild at times too, which feels more like maybe spring or autumn rather than winter. That's all from me. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.